You are listening to You've Got 5 Options show,
where every week Marta and Anna abandon their 5 children, 2 partners and 1 cat to make a show especially for you.
An artist, a challenge, a bullshit, a wisdom, and a surprise. Tune in and feel the magic of 5.
Say what? Boo, 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 boo. It's bullshit of the week.
So I was convinced that in order to create something valuable, writing-wise, I need to suffer. But I think over the years I realized that was bullshit. Yes, I agree. Suffering enriches you somehow. You know, it gives you a new perspective, new experience, but also gives you a relief. If you are an artistic person, then this is how you will. This will be your outlet to basically like just pour it out from you, and be it anger or sadness or depression or whatsoever. But I think that if that would be the case, then we would have only suffering artists around, and I don't believe that's true. And actually now when I write, I don't suffer out of anything, and I am still capable of producing things, you know. So I know that was my bias.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting limiting belief that you have to suffer to be an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that some people who grow with this kind of belief, they can either not go into their artistic career because they are afraid of suffering, or they could be attracting situations into their life where they can suffer so that they can create. So of course, suffering happens to us in life. It does happen to us in life, and then it's great to use our creativity, the art, and so on in order to get to express ourselves, to express that suffering, those emotions, and so on. However, walking around with the belief that you have to suffer as an artist, that's quite rough.
Yeah, you can just have a very shitty, full of suffering life and be an artist. No, come on, guys. I would just like to say that I was witnessing exactly this discussion, I think 2 years ago, 1 year ago. Jesus, I'm getting old if time flies for me like this, right? And that was between my life partner, aka the guy who stays home with the child, aka Dave, and his mom. They were actually arguing about some Chilean poets, and the mom was claiming that you have to go through some real suffering in order to produce touching poetry or touching art, and he was totally in opposition because he actually is a musician, and he said that for me that's not the case. I don't need to suffer to create. So I saw that live in Spanish language, understanding barely nothing. Very surprised I was by this, you know. I would suspect other type of conversations. So yeah, it's a topic that people discuss.
It's a topic that people discuss.
Yep.
So we deem it as a bullshit when it comes you have to.
Yes.
And the truth as you might be a suffering artist, or...
With that we can agree, right, Dennis?
Yeah, like you said, you gain perspective from knowing more sides of life.
Yeah, exactly.
That might make you better, but do you need it?
And I will ask you, Dennis, did you ever wrote a song or played music in order to get rid of some negative emotions?
I did. And I was thinking right now that probably some of the best things that I ever write musically was done in a state of mind that was not a happy place. So it was an outlet to write something.
What about that place where you are like really inspired and really connected? When you are going out there and there's an amazing audience and they are really vibing together with you. Wouldn't be there some beautiful moments of, you know...
Yes, definitely. And you feed off the energy. Of course you, but to return to being inspired and using an outlet, I remember one specific time when a close relative died. And I went into the studio with a good friend and lead singer, and I asked him, I told him pretty much, we need to write a song projecting this certain feeling. And we wrote one of our, in my opinion, best songs. Because he came with an idea and I worked on it, and it came out of a certain feeling.
Yeah.
That was not a happy place.
No.
Yeah.
The thing, I absolutely think that is the reality, that when we are in an emotion and we can project that authenticity
Yeah.
to people, it's just that I'm looking for examples where we can also do it in a positive emotion. When you are inspired, when you feel purposeful, when you are joyful.
Recently, I have updated and redesigned my website, and I'm not going through any emotional struggle at this moment. You know, I don't suffer. I'm not heartbroken. Everything is okay, and what inspired me to do it is that I thought I want to create this place, and I want to write pieces that I would like to find on internet myself. So basically, I create what I miss in my life. And it has nothing to do with suffering. It has something to do with me wanting to have a special place. Even if no one reads it, it's my place. And, you know, it's my party and I cry if I want to. So basically, that inspired me, you know, and I do exactly that. So actually, an ability to create a whole different world that is not there. That is inspiring for me. So I hope that answers your question a little bit.
Yes, it does. I just wanted to see both examples because in my opinion, both are true and both are possible.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go for some wisdom.
A super wise wisdom of the week.
Today, we are staying with creativity when it comes to wisdom.
Damn it.
Yes. And I'm a really yes person. Okay.
Yes, I think your husband is very happy.
Man. Okay.
Yeah, that was no.
I'll treat it with silence.
That was no. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry for my language. .com, by the way, if you would like to visit.
You definitely should. It's hilarious. It's wise. It's always entertaining. That's the slogan I made
For
as
my
a
website,
comment. As a
yes.
comment
For my writing website.
Yes. Okay. So now I have a little quote. Every child is an artist. The problem is staying an artist when you grow up. And that's a guy you might have heard about, Pablo Picasso.
Ah, yes, I've heard about him. I met him on a train 2 weeks ago. He was
Yeah.
going to Leuven. And he told me about this place, and that's how he programmed me to go there.
Yes, I'm sure about that.
Yeah.
So what do you think about it?
I think we actually were discussing similar topics already on the radio. I remember when you were giving us a couple of examples. One example was that many times when we are growing older, we are coming back to those passions or things we were doing when we were kids. And then the question was, so what exactly happens on the way from a little child that, for instance, loves to paint, sing, play soccer? Suddenly you become a teenager and you go into university and you study construction management, right? And then we were talking about the fact that many times within the age, society, parents, family, everything around us is putting some kind of barriers around that creativity, around who we really are. And okay, that's not proper. This I shouldn't do. This will not make sense. And so I think that this has a lot of wisdom in it. That quote.
What about you? What about your opinion, Dennis?
I agree. It reminded me of a meme or something I saw on Facebook the other day where all children are dancers until we teach them to sit still. So that art is the default. And you paint, you dance, you sing, you do all of these art forms before you are taught how to sit still, before you're taught to conform to these lines that society gives us. So I do believe that it is the default. We're all born that way. Some have more talent than others. That's just genetics. But we're all artists in some way before we are taught to draw inside the lines.
Yeah, I like that. I like that metaphor. Draw inside the lines.
Yeah, we are teaching our children to draw inside the lines, and then we expect the adults to be thinking outside of the box.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. What a paradoxical society we are living in. I don't know why I became so.
It is paradoxical. You know,
Yeah,
I have been digging into my childhood again because I've experienced a little bit of, like I've mentioned, I've had this creativity block, and I've experienced a little bit of this overwhelm and lack of clarity of what exactly it is that I'm supposed to be creating. So I started to look back again into my childhood, because I think that just helps me to get to know me, like who I really am better, and connect with my passions again. And I don't remember much from my very early childhood, so I wrote my mom to ask her, how was I spending my time when I was a child? And we have already talked about it on the radio before, that I was doing long hours of recording myself on the tape recorder, where I was doing like a radio, which I find as an amazing thing, that later when I was already 35 years old, I came back to do the actual radio podcast and so on. But my mom told me that when I was recording myself, I was doing whole theater performances, that I was using different voices, that I was making interviews, and I was making, like theatrical performances, that I was spending a lot of time dancing. I was making a lot of performances. I was having games with the dolls, for example, when I was playing performances. And I was like, whoa, so actually I was an artist. All those things that my mom has described that I was doing as a child are actually artistic things. And then I remember myself from teenager times, where my very, very strong belief was, I have no talents, no art of form whatsoever is connected to me. Like I am completely I actually had this belief for a long time that I'm not creative. So then I look back, and my mom just told me, like, you were doing this and you were doing that, and you were like, she named so many different things. And I was like, how is that possible that I could do all those things as a child happily? Then I go into teenager years and I come out as an adult thinking I am not creative, thinking that I have no talents whatsoever. Luckily, that's not the case anymore. I have worked through it in the last few years. But I was just thinking about it, that this is so true in my own story. And I didn't even remember that anymore.
Well, I thought that you will tell us other stories from your childhood, because I think, Marta, you were super creative and you actually had the potential to be an evil villain, because I know that there was something about stealing some corn from the field and telling some people something about a dog.
Well, I must say that definitely those stories were the stories that I did remember about myself. One very big so to speak, characteristic that I've had as a child was being very adventurous. So my parents had a little bit of a trouble because I could disappear for a whole day, because I thought it's proper for a 4 or 5 year old child to go alone a few kilometers away and bathe in the lake, or that I could just go with a 15-year-old friend and steal some corn a few kilometers away from the place where we were living, or many different things. Also having some people thinking that my dog is not smart enough and wanting to prove them wrong, asking the dog to kill an animal, a duck. I think it was a duck or a chicken.
Did the dog kill the duck?
Yes. And
I told you, evil villain in the making. She actually made her dog to kill the duck.
I am a very good person now. I don't even eat meat. So
that's because of the duck in a childhood.
That's probably why. Yes. However, you can find a lot of interesting things in your childhood, and definitely being adventurous, not being afraid. Going for what I thought was a good idea was definitely how I was. And then I grow up to be an adult that is extremely terrified of quitting my full-time job. Because I started to have a passion that I would like to work with people, start helping people directly. And I was terrified for a few years of quitting my job. As a child, I would just go for it, wouldn't even think about it. Maybe it would be good if I thought about some things. However, I was adventurous. I was going after my desires. I was very courageous as a child. And I needed to find it back. And I did find my courage, and I did quit my job, like some of you who are listening to us already know. So a lot of interesting information. I think we can find so much in our childhoods.
Definitely. Dennis, any incidents of killing or, asking other animals to kill animals, or something crazy
No,
in
but
this? No.
I was sitting on the floor as soon as I found out to connect 2 tape recorders with a CD player and making my own radio shows.
You were?
Yay!
Okay, that's awesome.
I can't remember how old I was, but I don't know, 10 or something.
Okay.
So,
From connecting, I remember when I was 3 and I put my fingers to the electricity socket. That I remember. That's my very first memory. Not really creative. I think maybe curiosity. I still have a curious mind. Yeah, but I was writing since I learned how to write. That was normal for me. I could write stories, and my poor literature teachers had to read it. But yeah, that is something that I was doing from the very beginning. And I had a lot of crazy ideas. Yeah.
But being an adult and still writing so much, that's quite a challenge, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Finding the time, the space, allowing yourself, all these different things like procrastination, fear, busyness, overwhelm, all those things, they start to kick
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I came to talk to you again. Marta, are you trying to depress me?
in. No.
Yes.
Well, in the next part of our show, we will see that that's not such a big issue anymore.
Yeah, before we will get there, because we are actually very good with time today, I would just like to say that I remember now very clearly one thing, Marta, when we are talking about creativity blockages, and you said that there are, those emotional blockages, fear of failure, fear of success, and, maybe afraid to go out there because people will judge you. Do you know who killed my singing career?
Some guy in your primary school, some boy, you were telling the story.
Yeah, I was actually at the music class singing at the piano because at that point I thought I can sing and I was doing it quite well. And then my piano teacher, the music teacher who was finished accompanying me, he was like, "Wow, you have a very, very nice voice. Are you singing in any choir?" And then there was the boy who apparently liked me and he was like,
"Yeah, funeral choir."
and I got so red. And I got so like, okay, I will never sing again. And now when I sing, I have a feeling that Marta doesn't think that my talent is there. I also have a feeling that my boyfriend thinks that I am not very good at singing because he said, everyone can sing with a lot of work. And I'm like, okay, so what the hell does it mean? So now I start to doubt if I ever had any talent, maybe when I was little. But yeah, things like this, one remark can literally like make a lot of harm, especially when you are young, when you are a kid, Funeral choir. Michał Kuklewicz, I remember your surname. If you are listening, I will never forgive you that.
That's not good for you, Anna.
I forgave you, Michał. I forgave you. But I remember your surname. I know where you are on Facebook.
Interesting fact, guys. Anna has been trying to sneak that story into our podcasts forever. And every time she was doing that, I was cutting her out because for a very long time I was the one editing the podcasts and I was cutting it out consistently. But now we are live and she knew that there is nothing I can do about it. So she had to bring that story.
I would say it's a coincidence, but is it? Yes, but exactly, Marta. There is like a whole footage. We can make a whole episode with my cut-out story about the funeral choir, and there you have it. It's here, yes.
Okay, guys, let's go for the last part of the show.
Yes.
G. From the left field.
Yeah, that's a very beautiful intro to the segment that we are going to look into now. And for that part, I have a surprise for Anna. She actually also for Dennis, but for Dennis, most of the things are a surprise here.
But he's surprisingly, our surprises are not so surprising because only one time I said something on air that he didn't know about. So it's like he's mentally preparing for anything we can say here. And that's really disturbing, Dennis, because I want you to be surprised as well.
I am.
Okay. So right now what I have prepared is actually a throwback to one of those shows where we were discussing creativity.
Jesus Christ.
And I as I told you at some point, I wanted to look a little bit into creativity and inspiration, but we have actually talked about it before.
Yeah.
So I thought, why not look on what that actually was and then some other comments that I hope we can discuss. Let's roll
Do you think personally that there is a difference between inspiration and creativity? Inspiration is something that comes to you. And actually, I think inspiration is an ability to come up with ideas that maybe are a little bit out of the box. And very true, when you have a sparkle of inspiration, then you can create something out of it. But I think that many people are perceiving creativity as something very artistic. You know, I'm a creative person, so I'm a painter, writer, singer, or whatsoever. Actually, you can be creative in any area of your life. You can even be creative in organizing, I don't know, plates in a kitchen. You can have a creative solution for that.
Yes. So I was thinking, because that was one of the big challenges that I had in my adult life, thinking that I'm not creative because I didn't recognize any artistic skills. And actually finding that you can be creative in so many different ways. It was kind of like breaking news for me.
Well, first of all, I would like to say, Marta, that I feel quite uncomfortable now that you possess our entire library, so you can surprise me like this every single time, because I don't have those files. Second of all, wow, I don't remember I even said that, and it was something that you were...
So, first of all, you can have it all, my dear. You can just download our
I know.
Our podcasts.
I know.
And actually, I needed to download this one because
You
it
did?
was our... We used to have an intern, Ola. Hello, Ola. Greetings here from
Yes.
You've Got 5 Options. She was actually the one editing those files. So, I had to download it, actually. It comes from our episode 28. Which we had about for Paul,
AKA
Lucifer.
Yes, that was Lucifer. Mind-blowing Lucifer.
Yes.
Yes.
And AKA actually Anthony, who was there on another show, and who will we have something on the next show about again?
Yes, Anthony is a friend of the show.
Yes, so
If
I
he
thought,
likes it or not.
So I just dig that out. I listened to that show to see what were we discussing about at that point. And I just thought that it's very important to remind to all of us, because that can also be a block for many people, that I am not artistic.
Yeah.
I'm not a big artist. I can't paint beautifully, or I can't sing beautifully. Therefore, I'm not creative. And also very important remark, those comparing yourself to other people who are doing it better. That can be a very strong block as well, the mental block. I might not have mentioned that before. That's why I'm mentioning it. But I just wanted to bring it in, just to bring a perspective on it. And now I would like to bring some comments on our creativity challenges that time. And I want to see if they are still true. It's awesome. It's awesome when you have that inspiration and you just sit down and produce. But it's very rarely. Most of the time, it's about actually sitting down and giving yourself a chance to create.
And this is amazing, because I have it a little bit different, Marta, because actually I am inspired constantly. Like, I have ideas every day for articles, for books, for weird concepts. It's like inspiration strikes me from every single direction. I have a problem with creativity. For instance, Marta, you are way better at just sitting and creating stuff, even if maybe, as you say, you have less of those inspiration strikes. I have a lot of them. I have a lot of notes, things that I'm just noting down. I have a problem with creating. So it's really interesting. This is where I see the difference. Sweet Jesus, Mother of God. Guys, sometimes when I hear myself on older podcasts, I sound like such a bragging idiot. Inspiration strikes me from everywhere.
But this is so true. Anna, this is so true.
Well, it is true, but it sounds somehow very braggy.
No.
And I think that some of our listeners are thinking, Jesus Christ, it's that woman that is struck by inspiration. No, it's like when I heard it, my ears almost fainted, I have to say.
My ears almost fainted. Okay, that's an interesting remark.
Because
yes.
you see
how inspired. How inspired Anna is.
Yeah.
I have always seen you this way. I have always seen you as an amazingly inspired and very creative person. However, why I brought it up was because I found it very interesting. As I was preparing for that show, I was feeling myself creatively blocked. I actually spent a while without actually sitting down and creating, which we in that show discussed that I am really good with just sitting down and creating. And you were talking about how much inspiration you have, but you struggle with creativity. And you are now actually creating every day, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Not my area of expertise at all. I'm drawing, by the way, guys. I don't know if you heard about Inktober. Dennis?
Yes.
Oh my God, yes. I thought that you will give us no and I will surprise you again. It's a challenge for actually people who can draw, but also amateurs can join. And every day throughout October, you have to make one ink drawing. And I am going now for illustration classes with my older daughter. And our teacher told us about this challenge. And I was like, yeah, I will do it. But because the quality of the drawings will be so poor, I will also write a little story to each of the drawings. How it ended up, I am making a drawing every day. So everyone on Instagram, I'm sorry, because I know how they look like, but I am not keeping up with writing. So guys, the stories will come. I wrote 3 stories so far, with a little baby and the radio, and we've been to TEDx. Why we didn't say anything?
I think we have said that we are going. Now we can say we have been to TEDx and awesome shows are coming along.
Yeah, they are coming along. But I am unable to produce the story to each drawing, but the drawing every day is produced. It's on Instagram. I will not give you my Instagram handle because I don't want to. I have a fear of success or rather failure. So, but I am doing something every day and it is extremely difficult with a little baby. But if you will make a bet with yourself that, okay, this is a challenge and I will just try to push through it, then actually you can create every day. Yeah.
So I just found it very, very interesting how life works, and how how those things can change. So that's because I was listening to that podcast. So I thought it would be an interesting thing to show how things can change in life and how you can actually overcome your own limitations and you can actually start doing what used to be a block for you. So just as a small inspiration, and I have the last thing to share with you from that episode.
But if you have that vision, if you know where you're going, then you can actually get that motivation from within, even if you're tired. And that ties up to what Marta mentioned. When I feel tired and I get the challenge and I know someone is waiting for the solution, I am sitting and I'm starting to create because you have overreaching purpose. And that purpose, Marta, I think is connected with some sort of vision of you helping people. That would be your purpose.
Yowza.
Yeah, that was one of your tips for Paul, Lucifer, Anthony, on how to become creative again, to have a vision of yourself. And you were tying very closely vision and purpose. So I'm very curious, how is your view on that right now?
On a vision and purpose?
You are now capable of creating again every day.
Yeah.
Do you have like a certain vision or purpose that is helping you through that?
Of course, my vision is that I will become a best-selling author and I will send my screenplay to Netflix and I will get a lot of millions. Hello, Netflix. There was a gap between my vision and between what I was actually doing. And I think after years and years of excuses and different attempts, I have just decided to bet with myself that I will start to build those small blocks of writing. And that is a block each day to build that vision in a future. Yeah?
Yeah, because the next step in that challenge was actually to also have some goals and be taking action when it came to creativity. So I was just very curious on how was your view on this one. I think having a vision is one thing and it helps. I think having a purpose is even more powerful because I realized that we were able to produce a lot when people were waiting for our solved challenges, when we thought we were helping people. But I believe that we are out of time. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys. We will hear each other next Friday.